Hi, Julia. It's Josh. Good to meet you virtually. I've got the first of the two questions you posed to me on the first board, and then I've got the second one on the second board. Both of these questions are fundamentally based on something called slope-intercept form of a line. Linear equations, it turns out, can be written in a few different forms. The most commonly used of these is something called slope-intercept form. I've written the general equation for slope-intercept form on the top right of this whiteboard. It says y equals mx plus b. Just a quick note about that. Y and x there are the variables. M and B, although they are appear to be variables because they're letters, they're actually something called parameters, which means that for any given line that you have that you're working with, those two things, M and B, will be numbers like -17 or +4/3 or whatever it happens to be. So both of those for any given specific line, both M and B are actually going to be real numbers. X and Y will remain variables the entire time. Um, so the first question really is just asking us to put the given equation into slope-intercept form. So if you'll notice in slope-intercept form, y is completely by itself on the left-hand side of the equation. And so we're going to do basic equation operations. We're going to keep, if you remember, we're going to do the same thing to both sides of the equation to keep it in balance. And that's what this is going to look like. So we're just going to try to isolate y here. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. So right below the equation I've written, I'm going to put minus 6x minus 6x for both sides of the equation. What am I going to get when we do that? Well, the 6x minus 6x is going to make the x's cancel out on the left, which is a good thing. We want y all by itself. We're going to be left with 3y on the left-hand side equals, and on the right-hand side, now I'm going to put the -6x before the -9. These are just two terms. One of them is called the linear term. That's the -6x. The constant term is -9, and they can be written in either order. So I'm just going to put the x first because you'll notice it agrees with the slope-intercept form. And then the only other thing we have to do is divide both sides by the number 3. That will get y all by itself on the left-hand side, which is what we want to do. -6x divided by 3, we're going to divide the coefficient -6 by 3. And what we're going to get is -2. The x is going to stay the way that it is. So we have -2x, and then -9 divided by 3 is -3. And we have now the equation in slope-intercept form. So we can notice that the slope, which is the coefficient of x, what is the coefficient of x here? It's -2. And we can also identify the y-intercept now, which is b. All right, so I'll put b is the y-intercept, and that number in this particular equation is -3. How is this line going to graph? Well, it's going to graph like a line because that's what linear equations graph like. They graph like lines. And it's going to have a y-intercept of -3. That means it's going to cross the y-axis right there at -3. It's also going to have a slope of -2, which means it's moving down as we move from left to right. And it moves down 2 units in y for every 1 unit it moves to the right in x. So we're going to have a line basically that looks like this.